My name's Adam McLaughlin, and this is the Church Marketing Ideas Podcast. Practical ideas to help your church build trust in your community. Welcome to the Church Marketing Ideas Podcast, helping your church build trust in your community. Today, episode 16 with Sly King, we're going to get into all the details about church online church, how you can use your live stream to impact and reach your community, and the why behind that. Plus, we're going to get into some of the common misconceptions about live streams and answer some of those questions for you. And if you love the Church Marketing Ideas Podcast, then leave us a review wherever you listen to your podcast. That way, more people can find us and more people can learn about how to build trust in their community. Sly King helps lead social media and online church efforts at the Worship Center Christian Church in Birmingham, Alabama. He's a radio personality and he loves barbecue. And right after this message from our sponsors, my interview with Sly King.
Hey friend, Ryan Wakefield here from Church Marketing University, and here's what I know about you. I know that you got into ministry because you love to see lives transformed. You love it when people get to hear the gospel, when they commit their lives to following Jesus, and it transforms everything about their life, about their family, about their neighborhood, about their community. That's why we got into ministry. And here's the good and the bad news, is in our society today, connecting with people has never been easier, but it's also never been harder. Easier because we've got all these tools to connect and to reach into our communities. Harder because there's very few people out there that actually teach us how to use these tools the right way and in a way that's super effective with reaching in, starting relationships, and being able to share the gospel. So if you're listening to the Church Marketing Ideas Podcast, you're in good hands, but I also want to let you know about a boot camp, what we call the Church Marketing Boot Camp, that you can get free access to. It's your starting point for reaching into your community. We're going to take what we found is the most effective tools that growing churches are using and show your church how to use them step by step to reach into your community. You can get access to this free church marketing bootcamp by going to churchmarketingideas.com/CMU for Church Marketing University. churchmarketingideas.com/CMU. And let's get started.
Sly King, thank you so much for hanging out with me today. I really appreciate you being on the podcast.
Hey, well, Adam, listen, I'm glad to be on, man. It's been a long time, but I'm looking forward to hanging out with you, man. I appreciate it, and glad. My backdrop is don't pay attention to the board, okay? It's my mind in whiteboard, okay? So it's a whole lot of stuff happening back here, so don't worry about that. Sorry, it's not a beautiful scenic view, but yeah, that's what you get, okay?
It's all great. I love it. I'm right at home in front of a whiteboard. Just give me some space and give me some scribble time, and I come up with probably some of the worst ideas, and eventually they lead to decent ideas.
Right. That's what happens. So it's two-sided there. This is the scribble side of some stuff that I was laying out. The other side has some more formatic stuff, but I use my whiteboard because I can literally just stop and say, you know what, let me just write all this out. And it helps me, to be honest with you, really helps me. So it's a great tool to have. If you don't have one, get somebody to get one for you, or definitely have one for yourself. It's great.
Yeah, for sure. Anyway, I really appreciate you hanging out, and I'm looking forward to chatting about church online with you.
Okay.
And just give us a little bit of overview, where you're from, where you're at, what you're doing right now.
Sure. So, of course, I am in the church online world. I work as the social media coordinator, the online campus coordinator, pastor, whatever title that goes along that. A lot of stuff that deals with everything online at the Worship Center Christian Church here in Birmingham, Alabama. So I do that. And it's a lot. It's a lot going on. It's a very, very busy landscape because, of course, as you know, in social media and online church, it's so much that changes, so much that goes along with it. And so I'm busy, heavily involved in that. And that's what I do by day. So I always say, it's Bruce Wayne by day, it's Batman at night, right? That's my daytime deal, of course, and I've been in radio now for almost 15 years, so I do that, and I'm on at night. So I wear a lot of hats, and if you live in the world of the church, you know you wear a lot of hats there. So I'm juggling a lot during my course of a day, but it's great.
So what have you seen is kind of the biggest success with your online strategy in the last few months? What's kind of been the thing that stuck out, that's gained you the most ground for your church?
I think right now we're at a phase where we're looking at even adjusting things we're currently doing. And I think the things that we've done in the past have been effective. And I think they have been. At the same time, too, we're really working now to be heavily involved in how we engage those individuals who are online, and how do we disciple them to the phase of moving them to the next step of where we want them to get to. And I think that evolving that has been a big part of what we've done and how that's been successful. And I think it's really helped, too, because it's allowed us to have that more personal connection with those that are online. The team that I work with, that I have, is amazing. They do really a great job helping to really be the ones to communicate on a regular basis with the members and those who are online. But I think the stuff we put in place to be intentional about connecting, finding a way to really reach them and meet them where they are, and just be personal. I think that that's been a big part of it. I think being able to let them know that, hey, we are as flawed as you are. This is an opportunity for you to come, and everybody is welcome. And so we really have used that as our mantra to really help people to understand that this is what it's all about, where you can come as you are. That is exactly what Christ wants. And so when I look at that, that's been really heavily a part of what we've been trying to communicate consistently online, our team, to help them understand that, we have so many people that come in and are hurting, man. It's amazing. You find that people that are hurting in so many ways, and when they need prayer, when they need these things. And so being intentional to just be as personal and to try to build that level of community in that space has been effective. And so that's just what we're trying to continue to build on.
I love it. And I want you to talk a little bit more about that, because you talked about connecting with people who are hurting, and that takes a pretty extreme level of trust. When somebody is going to send you a message, maybe they've never met you, and they know they're obviously talking to a person, but they might be interacting through a brand channel like your church. And I think sometimes the perspective on social media and online world is it's there for us to broadcast. It's there for us to promote our stuff. So what kind of things do you do to create the level of trust that's necessary for somebody to open up and connect with you on a personal level?
And I think you said something that's key. You have people who are willing to share these things with you, and they don't know you, they've never seen you before, but how do they build the trust with you? And I think the biggest thing that we've tried to do is having authenticity. And I think I cannot stress that enough about being authentic about who you are, as a person. Being authentic is really a big part of all of that. And I mean that by saying, hey, we are in the same space as you are. When I'm online and I'm doing a pre-service introduction and I'm talking to those individuals that are online with us before service starts, just kind of getting them comfortable with, us as a ministry, who we are, who I am, and just letting them know, hey, we're here. We're able to walk with you on this journey. We understand that everybody's journey is not the same. You may be in a different space where God has you right now. You may be watching now that, you've been away from church for whatever the reason may be. There's been challenges in your life. You've had people tell you that God doesn't love you, that God doesn't, look at you this way. And we're here to tell you that all of that's not correct, that God has a love for you that's far beyond what you can imagine. And just helping people to see that, hey, no matter where you are, no matter what position you're in, hurting, whatever it may be, we're here for that, and we want to help you. And so what we have to do is establish that foundation. And I think it's a part of building that relationship, because what ends up happening is you have people who connect with you and they may not talk to anybody else. And they may feel more comfortable talking to you because they really don't see you, if you really look at it that way, but they have a connection and they feel like, hey, I can share this with you. I haven't been able to share it with anybody else. And my team is well aware, we're not there to crack and pass judgment. We're not there to be the ones to facilitate, the overall aspect of what this person's life should or should not be. What we're here to do is to love them, and love them as Christ would love them, And by extending that love, I think that that is what opens up trust. If you don't establish a foundation of really extending love to people, then there's never going to be trust. You would rather much deal with somebody and talk with somebody who comes at you in a loving manner, and it makes you feel open and welcome, and that's what Christ was all about. It wasn't about you throwing down condemnation, but it's about you showing, hey, listen, you know what? We're here. We want to love you. We want to help you. We care about you. We know that, you may be in a space right now that is different than anything you've ever been in, but at the same time, God has a plan and purpose for you, and we want to be there to help you. And when you establish that, and I think when your key conversation with them is to help them see that, it changes everything. And I think it helps them understand that I can be open. I can feel like this is a place I can trust in conversation, because what's great is, you have the private chat where you can do the prayer request, and you get all kind of prayer requests. But at the same time, our team is known to be there to say, hey, we're going to pray with you. We're going to stand in agreement with you, and we're going to believe God to move in your life. And that's what it's all about. And so when you establish that, and I believe you walk in love, because that's what Christ is all about. And I think if we're not able to establish that as a foundation, we've lost it. As a church, whether you're in person or online, you've got to establish the fact that Christ is there in a symbol way of just showing his love that he has for all of us. And that's what it's all about.
Man, this is gold already. I feel like we could turn off the podcast and just have a week worth of things to think about right there.
Yeah.
I love that you're talking about the anonymity, because so often we see anonymity used online in a negative way.
Mm-hmm.
Somebody sets up a fake account and they go after somebody, because it's anonymous, right? Or even like you go after somebody using their own account will go after somebody else because they feel like there's no repercussions. But I love how you've changed this perspective on anonymity to be, I can't talk to my wife about this, or I can't talk to my parents about this, or I can't talk to my teacher about this. But since I know you're not going to be able to bring this back on me personally, I'm going to open up about this with you, because there's the anonymity there.
Right.
So,
yeah. And I think you said something that's key. And I think that's important for us to understand is that if we're going to ever be effective in the space that we live in now, I think what we have to, number one, come to grips with is we are in a digital world. Okay. And there's no secret behind it. If you're lost and think that it's going in an anarchic way and going back to what it was before, it's not. We live in a space of time where accessibility is different. You used to live in a point where if you're old enough, I know I'm old enough. If you're old enough, you remember you didn't have easy access to people like you do today.
Right.
Now you can send messages, you can say what you want, you can do what you want. We live in a space now that we have to understand as a church, okay, because that's how we are and that's how we communicate. How do we effectively take what Christ was all about and use that in a way to help minister to people who are hurting, who are in a position where they feel like there's nobody they can talk to. They feel like there's no one that will listen. They feel embarrassed. They feel like their life has been thrown away. How do we use that and allow us to really show the love of Christ through that? And so we have to use that and be very intentional to love people through these things. It's not saying we accept and we think everything is okay. We don't, but we don't walk in condemnation and we don't walk in a hateful manner towards people. And if you can't come to the church and experience the love of Christ, you don't need to go anywhere. And that's what drives people away. And I think we have to be very intentional to understand that and really, be very, very careful at how we manage the people that we interact with. And so when you lead by that and understand this is the space we live in, the world we are in now, and how can we effectively communicate with those that connect with us, that's what it's all about. Some people will never get a chance to talk with anybody about anything or have a chance for somebody to pray with them. This may be their only opportunity. And so how do you use that opportunity and how do you make the best of it and really allow God to use you to minister to them? And so I think that that's what we have to come to grips with. And we have to be understanding that if we're going to be effective in this space, then we have to be very intentional to understand that that's what is needed right now. So many people have looked at the church in a different space now. And you're right. They feel like they can say anything to anybody. I consider them to be keyboard thugs. Like they can say whatever they want. Right. They feel like there's no repercussion. But at the same time, there are people who may tune in and watch your service that may be at the last point in their life. They may be at a point in their life where, you know what, this is it. I don't know why I'm watching today, but this is it for me. And what
Yeah.
you say can have very, very big impacts on those people when they're in those positions. So we just had to be mindful of that.
Yeah, and I want to dig into something that you said in along this same vein of being mindful. Is something you said is you start out, or you often will do your introduction to your online service, kind of calling out the fear and then dismissing it, right? And so saying, you're not here to be judged. We're here to love you, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's important, and I love that practical tip. Give us some more practical tips or some practical ways that we can dismiss people's fears so we can build trust with them.
Right. So I think what I try to do is I like to lay out what I call the virtual red carpet before we start service. And what I try to use that time is to allow myself to understand that people that are watching are not always people that come to church on a regular basis. It may be people that are hurting. It may be people that have said, you know what, if God didn't speak to me today, this is it. It may be people in positions that their life has just gone in a downward spiral. They've had so many people kick them to the side. They've had church people throw them away. They've been done with church. They may say, I'm through with church. I'm not going to another church. I don't know what I'm going to do, but I'm watching today. So by addressing all of those things, I try to focus in on the fact that everybody's in a different space. And what I help people understand is, too, you've got to allow people to understand, no matter where they are on this journey in life, that there is a space and there's a position and a plan that God has for them. And when you share that information with them, it allows people to understand, okay, I may not be where the person is that I'm watching with, or that may be watching that I see their username or whatever it may look like. But at the same time, that there's a plan that God has for me. And there's a reason why I'm here today. There's a reason why I'm tuned in today. There's a reason for that. And so when you begin to recognize the obvious and you begin to speak to those things, imagine yourself being in that position. If you were on the other side and you were there, how would you feel? How would you want somebody to make you feel a little comfortable, to share information about yourself, to invite them to be a part of something? How would you like somebody to share that with you? And so what I try to do is to communicate that and to really share with them, hey, listen, you know what? Today's a day that God has really in store just for you. And there's something that he wants you to hear. Maybe it's in this time that we're on now. Maybe it's in praise and worship. Maybe it's in the message. It could be anywhere. Your opportunity now is to allow God to use that and to really speak to you. And so when you begin to just speak in those terms, I think it really helps them understand that and really just be very transparent. You know, I often say, you know, I didn't have a great start to my day, or maybe today I have to really remind myself that, you know what, God is still good, even in spite of the situations. And when you begin to do that, it begins to build, okay, he's not too far off from where I am. Like, I'm not disconnected so far from him that it seems like, well, how can he say this to me? He's got it all figured out. No, I don't. And I think I try to make sure that you understand, okay, hey, we're in the same space. We're not too far from each other.
Right.
That way it makes you feel like, okay, I can feel comfortable. And that's what I try to communicate. And that's what that part is very important. So if you can allow yourself to just insert some real reality of who you are and allow people to see, hey, listen, you know, no matter what you've been through, you know, this week may have been tough. The past 24 hours may have been tough. But you know what? There's a reason to give God thanks. There's a reason to be here and understand that your life has purpose. And you begin to kind of break down some of those concerns. And I just allow I allow God to really, you know, speak in those times. And I pray that he allows, you know, himself to be magnified in me when I'm able to share these things. And so I think that helps. And those are just some ways that you can kind of break down some of the concerns. And you can feel that too, because you never know. Some people may not be in the chat. They may not say anything in the chat, but they may be listening and it may be speaking directly to them. So don't think it's not going out to the people it needs to be, you know, communicated to.
So let's take that same concept and let's take a step back from church online, so your specific online broadcast, but let's talk about how we can create that invitational atmosphere through the week on social media. So Give me some practical ideas on things that you found to work to open the conversation on social media during the week.
I think the approach now is you have to find a way to be a lot more, you know, I want to say more personal in the sense of it's not so formatic. It's fun, but at the same time, it lets people know that, hey, there's a place for you. There's an opportunity available for you. You know, that reminding people that we want to connect with you, and that God has a plan and a purpose for you as well. And I think throughout the week, you have to try to communicate that. You have to try to communicate that this is a place that welcomes you, that you are available to be a part of, and making people feel like, you know, the door is open. And I think when you begin to start doing that and you allow that to be a part of your communication, it helps you lead into that time. And I think you have to do that. I think now it's more so the church is in a space where we have to be more authentic. I think that we have to be authentic as individuals to let people know that. Because I think it has a lot more weight, and it's more tangible to people who we're trying to reach. You know, again, as I said before, even in the broadcast, you don't want to come across as being like you have this cloud life, that you float on this cloud of no error, but allowing people to see that. And I think you can do that through whether you want to create some type of videos that are very authentic in that space, or maybe even just utilizing, you know, some of the graphics and things you can create to spark conversation, have people thinking. You know, we're doing something now that really makes people think. We're in the midst of doing 30 days of gratitude. And so we're doing 30 days of gratitude, and I kicked it off on the 1st of November. And every single day, there's a post that goes out about something that makes you think about why you should be grateful. You know, one of the posts that went out a couple of days ago was think about a failure that you had that you're grateful for. That makes you think for a moment, makes you think about it and say, wait a minute, a failure that I'm grateful for. Yeah. What failure in your life happened that you're grateful that it happened? Oh, okay. And I'll jump in personally and I'll talk about something for myself. Man, I'm grateful that I didn't get this job that I was trying to get, because I would have never got where I am today. Right. All these things are things that makes you think about that and allows people to reflect for a moment. And I think that helps spark conversation, but it also helps people to realize, you know what, we can spend a lot of time complaining about a lot of stuff, but here's some things that we can be grateful for. And so I think trying to create that synergy with this time of the year as well. It is the Thanksgiving time of the season, you know, and you get people to think about things and what things are they really, really grateful for that God is doing in their life, but also to reflect and think about some things that you may not have thought about. And I think when you do that, that can be a part of how you can really engage people in a great way. And allow people to feel comfortable to even share some of these things with you. And you'd be surprised. Some people have shared stuff throughout these days we've been in so far that you might not have gotten them to share, but as it's communicated and continued to go out, people are like jumping into that. So that's one area I think that kind of will help you in that space.
I love it so much. So let's jump back over to Church Online. And I want to ask you about how you gauge your content based on who's watching. So I know you're in Birmingham. What percentage or what chunk of your audience is going to be, you know, within driving distance of Birmingham versus what chunk of your audience is not within driving distance of Birmingham?
Right. So that's a good topic, because I've actually pulled some numbers on that recently, because we're looking at some things, and what you find is people are closer than you think, right? You know, the object that you see in the mirror is closer than what it really appears, right? You know, they're driving distance, but at the same, but we have our larger percentage based on the numbers that are driving distance between our campuses that are in Birmingham. We do have, you know, a good amount of people that are outside, and each city is ranked. But what we're finding is, you know, really challenging those individuals. And what I try to do is to challenge them every week to do two things. And one, if they're in driving distance of one of our campuses, to come. Number two, if they are not, whether they're in driving distance or they're not able to be there, to invite somebody to watch with them. Because I really try to make people understand that you have an opportunity to share Christ with somebody without you even realizing you're sharing Christ, you know, and understanding that, yes, we're on social media. Yes, there's a share button. So that may be your opportunity to evangelize in that manner to somebody. You may not be, and I tell people, you may not be great at going to somebody and sharing Christ with them, but you can share a link. You can share that. So share that, use that as an opportunity to allow just that seed that you plant to be something that very well could be watered by somebody else. And they may not watch the first week. You may put something out, you know, and but you never know when somebody will watch. It's just like anything else. And I really stress to people, don't try to reinvent the wheel. Think about how you operate every single day. I save links all the time. But here's the funny thing about it. I save links that I may not watch at that moment, but I go back and watch them. Sure. So it's nothing wrong with inviting somebody to say, hey, share this with someone, give them the opportunity to feel empowered to evangelize to somebody and challenge them as well. And so I try to challenge people because we know people that come to our ministry. Some people are in driving distance, and there are reasons why they don't come. We have a lot of people who, like my wife is in the medical field, who, they work, their schedule is sporadic. And they may end up working on a Sunday. We have a lot of people who have to work on Sundays, and they'll say, hey, I'm so glad we're at such and such hospital, in Birmingham, and, we're tuned in, we're listening, or that we have somebody who religiously watches from Kuwait. And
wow.
At 8:00 in the morning. So I can't remember what time that is. It's either whatever time of day that is there, but it's early, beyond early the previous day, I think. But the point is, we have a lot of people who still connect with us that are local, but there are reasons why they don't come. Some people will say, hey, well, children are sick or I can't be there, but we try to challenge, and I try to challenge them if they're capable of getting there to be a part of it in person, because you're seeing the fact that people find it to be easier to sit at home and watch service versus coming into service. And so that's a challenge that I try to, to position to people, especially knowing that there are people that potentially can drive to one of our campuses.
Right. So when somebody is creating their online experience, it's obviously important to understand who's watching, right? And that's correct. One of the things you've done by figuring out that most of your people watching are within driving distance of Birmingham. So give me some ideas on how you create content that is specific to Birmingham, and then hopefully whoever's watching and listening can figure out what that looks like for their church in their area. So what is, besides Steel City Pops, which is like the reason I go to Birmingham, is
gotta take you to some other places too, man. That's a great place. I got to take you to some other places, but that place is top on the list.
Listen, next time I'm in Birmingham, we're gonna catch up for sure.
We have to do that.
We have to.
No doubt.
Maybe you'll let me in on the radio show.
Hey, you know what? That may be something. Get a chance to get you to hang out and see how that works. So yeah, we can do that.
That'd be so cool.
That'd be
anyway,
fun.
Back to the podcast. If somebody's in Birmingham, then what kind of things or what kind of ideas or what kind of considerations are you taking to create an experience that resonates with them? And of course, we'll talk about how this can apply for other churches in other areas as well.
And I'll be very transparent. We're working on revamping even that approach in the sense of being more intentional. And I think what has to happen too is that we have to be more intentional to give enough, but also at the same time, allow people to see the importance of coming and being a part of that in person, especially if they're local. And so what I don't want to try to do is to give way too much and they feel too comfortable where they don't have to ever come and they're that close. And so I think that you have to have the balance in the two, but letting them know what we're doing to help the community. We just recently did a huge fall festival that we did here, and it was amazing. And we had a ton of people come and be a part of it. But at the same time, those individuals that are there, we also want them to be a part of what we're doing here locally. And so giving people information about the things we're doing in and around the city of Birmingham, how that's impacting the lives of people, what their contributions are doing to help those individuals. And I think that's the key part too, because even if you're local or not local, you want people to understand that they're making a difference. Right. They're impacting the lives of people that they don't even see, and they're making a difference in those lives. Everything that they do helps to make a difference. And so by allowing that to be something you communicate, I think you have to communicate that. What are you doing in your city? And what are you doing that's impacting your neighborhoods and your cities that people are being a part of and to have an impact in? And so by highlighting those things, I think it's very important. We talk a lot about education and how important that is and how that's impacting our young people, talking about the importance of those things help people to understand that these are things that are happening in and around their city and what we're a part of. I think by connecting the fact that we're in the community and we're doing some things are important for people to understand if they are part of this community as a whole, and how they can even be more engaged in that by them being plugged in and what we're doing if they're local. And so I think you have to highlight those things, but you don't want to go too far and just give everything. It's like, well, I definitely don't have to come now. I mean, I'm good, but we want people to know enough to know that, hey, we're in Birmingham. These things matter to us. And we're also working to make a difference. We're doing 2 phases of this thing we've done for the past several years called Operation Help and Hope. And so we just did one recently in Birmingham, which was centered around helping the homeless, helping those who were in need. We not only feeding, but, from all the different types of things we made available for them on that day, but communicating to those that are online that this is what we're doing in your community. We have another one coming up in our Anniston location in December, but these are things you can consistently communicate. What are you doing in and around your community that's impacting people that you could reach, and how are they being a part of it? There's some things I want to do as we move forward to really highlight that more and show people more. And I think that that's going to be something that also makes a big difference. And that's going to be really me more so inserting myself into some of those things to really show people, say, hey, look, this is what we're doing. It's just really showing small snippets of certain things, but just really trying to capture that. So that's another thing you can do too. If you have somebody who is, I hate to say, the face of your online campus or whatever, but allow them to be the person to maybe be out in the community and capture some things. And maybe they can be the ones to kind of, hey, look, this is what we're doing. We're doing this in Birmingham, man. It's been great. You guys are helping us do that. And so we want you to know more about this. And so these are things you can also do that would speak directly to that online campus, but also at the same time still highlight the other things that you're doing in and around the city that they're a part of.
So let's talk along those lines about having somebody who's kind of your online campus pastor or your digital outreach pastor or the face of your online broadcast, whatever that looks like at your church, whatever title they get. Tell me a little bit about the mechanics of how your service works. So are you in a separate location and then you do an intro and then you cut to service, and then are you cutting back and forth? Are you actually in service doing the welcome? What kind of, in a practical sense, what are kind of some of those mechanics for you?
Sure. So typically I'm at every campus on a Sunday. Well, two of our campuses. And so I usually travel. So we have a live campus that we start out with maybe at 8:00, and then I travel to the next campus for 10:30. What I normally end up doing is I have a location that I'm at those campuses, and I'm live from that location. So I started out, and then we cut to praise and worship. We're not doing really any cutting back too much right now. That's a plan that we're working on. And again, I will tell anybody, and this is just me, I always try to be as honest as possible. You always have to work and do what's best for your ministry and where you are. Don't feel bad if you're not able to do that right now, right. Based on the team that you have, their abilities. Are they able to do it? Can it be consistent? Consistency is the key, right? Is it something that you can do? Is it sustainable? Can you do it 1 week and then you got to wait 3 or 4 weeks before you start doing the cutaways because the people that you were able to do that with, that's not their Sunday. You got to think about all that stuff. But those are things that we want to do more of because they're very beneficial. I think that they're great in certain elements of what we do. But typically, it'll be the pre-service. It'll go right into praise and worship, and that'll be the service in itself. There are times where I do insert myself depending on what's happening, and there may be moments for that if there's an opportunity that's there. But typically, service is carried all the way throughout. And our teams, our campus pastors, our pastor as well, they're very clear on communicating to everybody, and they recognize all of our campuses. So, maybe you don't have a face for your online campus. Maybe it's just your pastor or your campus pastors, but you got to communicate to them to not just say, hey, everybody, good morning. So glad to see all of you here at such and such campus, and you just move past that. No, hey, good morning, everybody. So glad to see all of you here at our campuses. All of you that are watching online, thank you so much for joining us, talking directly to them. If you don't have a person that's able to be the face of that, make sure that they communicate to them.
Right.
When you do anything, hey, listen, there's many ways you can connect with us. Those of you that are online, you can do that on the online campus. You can do it on your mobile device through our app, making sure people understand, oh, they're also talking to me, and they're not just talking to the audience, but they're also communicating to those that are online, because then it makes them feel like they're a part of it, and when you begin to address them and let them know that. So that's another option you have. Allow your pastor, if they're the ones that are going to be typically in the face of your online campus because you don't have a person that's there, then do that, and that's what it's all about. If you don't have anybody yet, maybe there's somebody that that's capable of doing it. I'm really working to train others to do this because there's other people that need to grow and other people that need to be able to do it. And I want to help people, get to a point where they feel comfortable enough to do it. And it takes practice. It takes the right person to do that, but you've got to be willing to invest that time. And there may be somebody that's at your church that may have that heart and passion for it, but they just need some direction. And I think that that's a part of also doing that. But make sure, whatever it is, that you're utilizing the people that you have on stage to not skip past your online campus. If you're streaming, talk to them, mention them, let them know what's going on, let them be a part of it. We also try to do, when we've done giveaways in the past, right? We've done like things for people to register for stuff. We also have said, okay, how are we doing it for online? Hey guys, listen, there's a link that they're going to be posting for you to go and register. So make sure that you do that. My team knows, hey, there's a link. They post it for them to go out and register and be a part of that when we've done stuff like that. So it also includes them and doesn't exclude them.
Talk to me a little bit about being the face of your online broadcast, but not limiting it to your broadcast. So do you do Facebook Lives during the week? Are you showing up and doing quick snip videos, introducing yourself during the week so there's a familiarity and a trust when somebody gets to the point of watching you on Sunday? What's your strategy around that?
Yeah, and so, I really have wanted to do more of that. That's been a part of something that I've been really wanting to do, and now I've got some new toys too to play with, so I'm actually going to get a chance to kind of mess around with those. But that's been something that I've done, I want to do more of. And it's a part of the fact that, when you're here every day, you have an ability to do that. And so that also inserts not just me, but it also inserts the fact that, okay, they're tangible, real people. We like to laugh. We like to have a good time. We're people who are touchable and reachable, and let people have a association. Most people associate me with our online campus, or if they don't see me on the announcements or something. So they have a familiarity with me. And that's when people stop me and say, okay, I know you. And say, okay, yeah, the worship center. Okay, yeah, I've seen you online. So these are things that are part of establishing that, but also opening it up to other people that are on your team, allowing your staff to be a part of it, allowing them to engage the audience. Maybe it's something that another minister that's on the team wants to share with someone, or maybe you want to, speak with somebody that's on your team that's serving, whatever it may be, allowing that to be the case. But usually I do lead the charge on that, and that may be going on Facebook Live to do something. We're getting ready for a big relationship conference, and so we've got some online Facebook Lives that are going to be scheduled coming up for us to go on and talk about that. But it's going to be really important that you have somebody, if you do, that's comfortable enough to be that, because again, you want somebody that you identify with, somebody that you have that rapport with. You feel like you know them, right? They're like, I know him. Like they don't really know you, but they have a sense, they feel like they do, because you're communicating to them. And I think that that's the big part about it. Don't try to overthink it. Just talk, be yourself, have fun with it. And allow yourself to be that person that they can feel comfortable with. Because when you've had conversations with people you feel comfortable with talking to, or you feel like, yeah, I've known them my whole life. Well, why? Because it's a familiarity there. It's the way they came across, the way they presented themselves to you. And I think that part is very important for you to be effective in that space. So that's something that I think that's very important to utilize that. And maybe you have a person who is able to do that. And if it is, let them do it.
Sly, this has been incredible. I've got one more question for you, and that question is or more of a request, let's say. Okay. Talk to the church that's thinking about going online but hasn't done that yet. They're concerned that maybe if they go online, people will stop showing up on Sunday morning and just watch online, or they're concerned that attendance will go down, or they're concerned they can't do it well or up to their standard. Just tell me a little bit about, or speak to that church and encourage them about why online matters.
Yeah. And so let me say this, first of all, Adam, thank you. I'm really appreciative of the opportunity to share this anytime I get a chance to. And I want to say to those that are maybe considering it, thinking about it, you're going through the process of what does it look like? Find what's best for your ministry. Find what's best for who you are and where you are at that point. Oftentimes we'll get sabotaged in our minds about everything that everybody else is doing, what they're doing, how they're doing it. And you may not be in that space. You got to think about, what do you have that's sustainable that you can do, and do it well? Meaning, if going online for you, maybe it's just one service, maybe it's, done this way, and you have some ways of getting people acclimated to your assimilation process. Think about those things, meaning, what's the next phase for somebody that connects with your ministry? How important is it for you to reach people for Christ and be focused on that. If that's your center, then understand you're missing a world of people who are out here. And how can you reach those people? And how can you establish an opportunity for them to know Christ and know more about your ministry? And so maybe there's some ways you can do that, but think about those things as you begin to process whether or not you can do it. There's investments that are out there, obviously, in whether you have the equipment to do it. What's the most effective way? Do I need to be in every space? Maybe find the space that's best fitting for you. Maybe Facebook Live is it. Maybe that's all you do. Maybe YouTube Live is it. Maybe, your online platform, whatever that looks like, find that and find it well in the sense of what it is that you want to be able to do, and communicate that, and make sure that it's done to a point where when somebody's online and they make a decision for Christ, you're not sitting here going, what do we do? Have you thought about those things? Think about those assimilation things. You got to get people from one phase to the next. What does that look like? And then what is your overall goal? Do you want people just to watch and join you online every week? Or do you want them to join you online and have hopes of them joining you in person? You're wanting to get them from online to offline, or what is it that you want? Do you want the combination of the two? What does that look like? Because then it changes how you invest in that. You may not be focused on trying to create, your original content and doing all these things to provide all this material, but you may be just wanting to get people to know more about your ministry, and your whole call to action from your pastor, whoever it may be, is come and join us in person. Be a part of it. You don't want to miss what God is doing in person. Maybe you give them enough that really makes them say, I got to come and be a part of that. So you got to think about all those things when you begin to start flushing out whether or not this is something you want to do and how you want to do it. And then just block out all the other noise of everybody else and say, we're going to ride this lane just this way. And then begin to add the other things you want to do as time progresses. Maybe you find that you say, you know what? Maybe we can add another platform now. We've got the people that are there. You can't stream on a platform and have people commenting and there's nobody there to answer, right? What does that look like? That's ineffective. That's bad. That's a bad practice. And if you're doing that, you got to find somebody that's going to be there for those individuals who may say, I need help. That's important. That's a part of ministry. When you turn on that switch, be prepared for the fact that this is ministry too. It's not just you having a service. It's ministry. And so when you have ministry out there, be prepared for having people to receive those individuals and equip them the best way you can so they can effectively communicate. Make sure that they have the tools they need. My team has scriptures that are already laid out for dealing with certain subjects, just to prepare for people that are dealing with certain things so they have some things available to them. Don't assume that everybody's in the same place spiritually. They're not, okay? Right. So they may not be a Bible scholar like you. And if they're not, that's okay. But give them the stuff to be successful, the tools they need, give them the information they need to help them communicate. Whether you write out everything that they have to say, the welcome or whatever, that's okay. Why? Because you want them to say and be in the same space of communicating effectively and making it where they can be successful. So those are just a couple of things I think that may help you as you begin to think about the process and start thinking through all the details that it is that you have, other than just saying, oh, we turned on the switch, we're live, folks. It's a little bit more than that. So
Sly, this has been an incredible conversation. This is just golden nugget after golden nugget. If somebody wants to ask you some more questions, they want to dig a little deeper, maybe they have some specifics that they want to find out from you about, get your take on, what's the best way for them to connect with you?
Well, easy. You can always, couple of things. Number one, I'm always on I'm on Instagram, I'm on Facebook, but it's easier to find me on Instagram and also on Twitter. If you're out there, it's at I am Sly King. That's IAMSLYKING. And also you can always email me. I'm always open to communicate with anyone. I don't mind that at all. Don't feel like you're bothering me. I had a pastor that's a friend of mine who reached out to me from something similar to this. And he's like, am I bothering you? I said, no, you're not bothering me. Stop saying that. It's okay. So you can always email me. It's sking@theworshipcentercc.org. Now, it's a long email address, but it's easy. It's sking@theworshipcentercc.org. Send me an email. Maybe I can help you. We can conversate. Don't think it's a crazy question. Reach out to me. Because honestly, at the end of the day, Adam, the whole purpose of what we're doing is to reach people for Christ. And we have a world that is in a lot of turmoil about everything that's related to where we are as a church and where they are and where they fit in, and the church and its level of scrutiny that it gets consistently. So we're here to help do one thing, and that's for them to know Christ and have a relationship with him and help them on that journey. And so that's what it's all about. It's not about me. It's not about pumping a certain ministry. It's not about that. It's about Jesus. And so if we can help reach somebody for Christ, then we've done our job. That's what it's all about.
Sly, it's been a blast. Thank you so much for hanging out today.
Hey, Adam, I appreciate it, man. Anytime. We got to go somewhere else, too, along with Steel City Pops. We'll get that on the way to someplace else when we come to Birmingham. We'll do that.
I can't wait.
Looking forward to it, man.
Hey friend, Ryan Wakefield here from Church Marketing University. And here's what I know about you. I know that you got into ministry because you love to see lives transformed. You love it when people get to hear the gospel, when they commit their lives to following Jesus, and it transforms everything about their life, about their family, about their neighborhood, about their community. That's why we got into ministry. And here's the good and the bad news is in our society today, connecting with people has never been easier, but it's also never been harder. Easier because we've got all these tools to connect and to reach into our communities. Harder because there's very few people out there that actually teach us how to use these tools the right way and in a way that's super effective, which with reaching in, starting relationships, and being able to share the gospel. So if you're listening to the Church Marketing Ideas podcast, you're in good hands. But I also want to let you know about a boot camp, what we call the Church Marketing Boot Camp, that you can get free access to. It's your starting point for reaching into your community. We're going to take what we found is the most effective tools that growing churches are using and show your church how to use them step by step to reach into your community. You can get access to this free church marketing bootcamp by going to churchmarketingideas.com/CMU for Church Marketing University. churchmarketingideas.com/CMU. And let's get started.
Coming up on the next episode.